Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer. We constantly hear about the devastating impacts of climate change, deforestation, biodiversity loss, and honestly, it's so easy to just feel paralyzed by the sheer scale of it all. But today, we're flipping the script. We are looking at one of the absolute most staggering environmental achievements of our time. We're focusing on the sheer power of individual action, told through the incredible story of one man, Jadav Payeng, and his unbelievable 40-year journey to literally grow a forest from absolutely nothing.
So, can one person actually change the world? It's a question we've all asked ourselves, right? When we're faced with these massive global ecological crises, can one person's solitary, seemingly microscopic effort actually move the needle? It is so easy to fall into cynicism, to think, well, unless I'm a huge corporation or a global superpower, what I do doesn't matter. But as you're about to see, one individual's quiet, relentless dedication over decades can completely rewrite the landscape.
To really grasp how this all started, we have to go back to a very specific, honestly heartbreaking catalyst. The year was 1979, on Majuli Island in Assam, India, right in the middle of the Brahmaputra River. A 16-year-old Jadav Payeng stumbled onto a totally horrifying scene. A flood had washed hundreds of snakes onto a barren sandbar, and when those waters finally receded, the snakes were left totally exposed to a brutal drought. With zero tree canopy to protect them, they essentially baked to death in the extreme heat. For a teenager, you can imagine, this wasn't just sad. It was a terrifying glimpse into the future. It struck this incredibly deep chord with him, leading to a chilling realization. Without shade, without trees, humanity is staring down that exact same fate.
Just look at this stark contrast. This is what makes Payeng's story absolutely legendary. That one heartbreaking moment in 1979, on a barren, eroding, heat-baked strip of sand, it sparked a monumental transformation. Today, that exact same space is a 1,360-acre thriving ecosystem. Just lush forest canopy and incredibly rich biodiversity everywhere. It went from a sandy wasteland to a dense green sanctuary. So you're probably wondering, how on earth did he pull that off?
Well, it happened through an unwavering, totally singular mission. Jadav crossed a massive threshold that day. He didn't just look at those snakes, feel awful, and walk away. He took it personally. He made a pledge right then and there to plant one tree sapling every single day in that barren soil. In that moment, he completely transformed from a distressed local teenager into a deeply committed, solitary conservationist on a lifelong mission to bring life back to his homeland.
Now, what's really interesting here is this number, 40. For more than 4 decades, Payeng crossed the river by boat at the crack of dawn, walked miles across the baking sand, and did this work entirely by himself. Just pause and imagine the sheer dedication required to wake up every single day for over 40 years, carrying seeds and saplings out into a complete wasteland, just slowly, stubbornly willing a forest into existence, one tiny root at a time.
And his approach was incredibly methodical. I mean, you can't just toss seeds onto baking sand and expect a forest to pop up, right? He started specifically with bamboo and silk cotton trees. These are species tough enough to actually survive and hold that loose, sandy soil of the riverbank together. He hand-sowed every single seed. He watered them, he guarded the delicate saplings. We are talking intense micro-level effort here. But the crucial third step, well, that's where the real magic happens. Once you build the foundation, you step back and let nature take the wheel.
Which brings us to this incredibly profound quote. Payeng has always been so humble about this, constantly pointing out that he didn't actually do it alone. His deep understanding of nature highlights this beautiful interconnectedness. He planted those first trees, sure, but once they seeded, the wind, the birds, even the cows and elephants that wandered through, they all became his co-workers. Nature has this unbelievable ability to scale up our efforts if we just give it the basic starting tools it needs to thrive.
And wow, did it ever thrive. Thanks to those seeds, that wind, and those birds, the whole narrative shifts. We go from a story of solitary, grueling human toil to a story of absolute awe and wonder. This is the ultimate reward of his hero's journey, the spectacular return of the wild. This forest, which locals now affectionately call Molai, meaning Molai's woods after Payeng's nickname, became an absolute beacon of life.
Just take a second to really look at this. Remember, this whole area used to be baking, blinding sand, nothing else. Today, it is a towering sanctuary. To put that into perspective for you, At 1,360 acres, this completely man-made forest is actually larger than Central Park in New York City. The canopy is just thick with indigenous species like the pride of India, Royal Poinciana, and Argent trees. It has become a totally self-sustaining Eden.
And naturally, a healthy forest brings healthy inhabitants. We aren't just talking about a few bugs and squirrels here. We are talking about apex predators like Bengal tigers and vulnerable species like the Indian rhinoceros making their home here. There's a population of over 100 deer, and incredibly, a massive herd of about 100 elephants actually visits this forest for up to 6 months every single year. Get this, those visiting elephants have felt so incredibly safe in this new habitat that they've actually birthed 10 calves right there in the forest. And this brilliantly illustrates the sanctuary this forest provides from a smaller but equally vital perspective. Avian life has absolutely exploded here. Wildlife experts have pointed out that this very forest now attracts up to 80% of the world's migratory birds. Let that magnitude sink in for a second. 80%. From vultures to tiny little songbirds, the canopy offers food, safety, and nesting material that literally did not exist just a few decades ago. But look, this story isn't just a beautiful, heartwarming tale about animals returning. Let's pivot for a second to the hard science of why this forest matters on a global scale. The real ecological impact of Payeng's work proves that hyperlocal action creates vast, measurable environmental ripples that genuinely benefit the entire planet.
You can explicitly connect the dots between Payeng's daily morning routine and huge global climate solutions. First up, the forest acts as a massive carbon sink. The dominant tree species trap tremendous amounts of biomass carbon, which directly fights global warming. Second, erosion control. Majuli Island was literally washing away into the Brahmaputra River. Now, these deep tree roots anchor the sandbars, acting as a buffer that mitigates deadly floods. And socioeconomically, this forest sustainably supports nearly 250 local families living right there in clusters of huts. It is living proof that human communities and nature absolutely can thrive together.
Let's move forward and see how this all builds over time. For nearly 30 years, Payeng worked in total obscurity, just him and the trees. But in 2008, a photojournalist who is actually tracking that herd of elephants I mentioned earlier stumbled upon this massive forest and the lone man who planted it. The media attention that followed brought national awe. By 2012, Jawaharlal Nehru University officially named him the Forest Man of India. And then, in 2015, he was awarded the Padma Shri, which is the 4th highest civilian honor in the entire country. He went from a solitary teenager to a global reforestation hero.
But you know, even heroes face profound setbacks. And that brings us to a really harsh and urgent reality. 5,000. Back in January of 2026, a deliberate fire ravaged a section of the expanded Molai Forest 2.0. This devastating act of arson destroyed roughly 5,000 trees across 5 bighas of land, tragically killing birds and small animals caught in its path. It's a painful, stark reminder that conservation is an ongoing battle. These fragile ecosystems don't just survive on their own once we built them, they require constant, active protection.
However, if you want to look for the true success of Payeng's mission, it's that he is no longer fighting this battle alone. When that fire broke out, it was swiftly put out by his own daughter, Moonmoni Payeng, working right alongside local villagers. His unwavering dedication over the years has successfully inspired a whole new generation. In fact, Moonmoni and 70 other villagers, backed by a local NGO, have recently planted 1 million or 10 lakh new trees on the island. The community has stepped up, taking up the mantle of protecting and expanding his legacy.
Jadav Payeng famously stated, "I'll plant till my last breath." He looked at a horrific tragedy of dying snakes on a barren wasteland and he responded with a lifetime of creation. He proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that one person absolutely can change the world, one tiny seed at a time. So the question I want to leave you with today is this: what small seed are you going to plant in your own life today? Thank you so much for exploring this incredible journey with us. I'll see you next time.